Brexit. Hard or soft? No one knows. But if you are an SME or small mid-cap likely to be affected by Brexit and are looking to innovate or prepare, the Brexit Loan Scheme could help. Be prepared for every eventuality and find out how your business can benefit from the Brexit Loan Scheme. Loans range from €25,000 up to €1.5 million, with a maximum interest rate of 4% and are unsecured up to €500,000. Terms and conditions apply. This is a Government of Ireland initiative delivered by the SBCI. Find out more at sbci.gov.ie or call 1-800-804-482.
Welcome into Sportsmemo's betting podcast for February 22nd. February 22nd. That means we're getting close to March Madness, and this is College Basketball Addiction with Robbie Veno. Rob, welcome into the podcast. How are you?
I am good today, Drew. Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you, Robbie. And we're going to be breaking down Saturday's card. We got 5 big games on the slate. Texas, Oklahoma, all the way down to, 7-11, 7-12, Duke, Syracuse. And the lines aren't out yet, guys. So we're kind of going off of Robbie Veno's power ratings, Ken Palm's numbers on sides and totals. Try to get you guys on the right side of the moves here, and hopefully get some winners out there to the listeners. Robbie Veno 5-1, his last 6 5% top-rated plays in college basketball. That's year-to-date, so he's just 5-1, 83%. He'll have one tomorrow's slate, 5% or up, so make sure to check out Robbie Veno's service. And guys, for the podcast special coupon code, we got CBB100. That takes $100 off rest of the college basketball season. We just discounted it to $425. So with this special podcast coupon code CBB100 at checkout for Rob Veno's rest of college basketball season, or myself, Drew Martin's rest of college basketball season, CBB100 at checkout. We'll give it to you for $100 off, just $325 for the rest of the college basketball season through the Final Four. We're looking at Sportsmemo odd screen right now. We got the rotation numbers up, 609, 610, Robbie. Texas, Oklahoma in the Big 12. Ken Palm showing at 67 for Texas. Oklahoma 69. That would give us a total of 136. How are you viewing this one, Robbie? We got a big injury on the Longhorn side. How much do you think that affects this line move here?
Yeah, we're going to find out, Drew. The Longhorn starting point guard Kerwin Roach suspended this afternoon indefinitely for violation of team rules. So we don't know how long that's going to last, but we do know he won't be involved tomorrow. And if you go back to January 19th, the first meeting between these two, Texas scrapes by OU 75-72 behind 23 points from Kerwin Roach, 23 points and 8 rebounds as a point guard. Anybody who's watched Texas this year, you know he's their all-everything guy. He's the one guy that if you're in a half-court set and there's 10 left on the shot clock, he's the guy who can make something for himself, get a shot for himself. It's a big loss. It's a significant loss for this team. The Texas big guys down low depend on him to create and get the ball to them. So we're going to see, Drew. I don't know where this game will open. I'm sort of in alignment with Ken Palm. I know that his numbers don't figure for this injury either, and I made my power ratings without regarding this suspension. In fact, when I did the power ratings this morning, the suspension hadn't even been announced. That in mind, my numbers showed Oklahoma minus 1.5 at home. Obviously now with Roach suspended, it won't come Oklahoma 1.5. We'll see how much the odds makers compensate for the loss of Kerwin Roach here. But a big break for Oklahoma. Obviously a heated rivalry. Obviously a revenge game for OU. Looked pretty good in their last outing. I tell you, we'll see where the numbers come here. And even if that 136 that Ken Palm projects for a total, we'll see if that moves lower because of the loss of Roach. It'll be interesting. I don't think I can make any definitive play on the game until we see a number here. So let's go ahead and see what happens. But that's about as big of a subtraction from a starting unit that you can have across the Power 5 right now.
And Robbie, yeah.
Excluding Zion Williamson. Let me say that real quick. I don't want people to say, don't you think Zion's more important? Obviously, he is.
Yeah, and I mean, Zion doesn't play point guard, so in that you could make the argument against it. But no, I agree with you. I mean, Zion, the name, and the way he went out with the whole shoe Nike thing on national television against UNC, the Duke UNC, it was just kind of everything coming together for that kind of explosion there of information. But we got Texas, Oklahoma here, and it is the point guard, Robbie. So, you know, Ken Pom has it at 2. I think you said the Sooners you had favored by 1.5 by your numbers, and he is going to be out for sure, Robbie.
Yeah, it's an indefinite suspension, so we don't know how many games. I guess it's up to Shaka Smart maybe how long Roach is out for. There's no real. There's no total limit of games here put on it yet. No number of games put on this suspension yet. So we'll see. It starts tomorrow. You're going to see a difference in play out of Texas for sure because the ball is in Roach's hands quite a bit when this team is on offense. He's good on both ends. And like I say, he's the leading scorer in the first meeting between these two, puts up 23 points and a 3-point win, and grabs 8 rebounds from the point guard position. So a huge loss. And I think, Drew, to your point about Zion Williamson, I guess you could make the case that Kerwin Roach, it may be more important to his team's starting 5 than Williamson is. I mean, there's other guys to pick up the pieces for Duke, Cam Reddish and R.J. Barrett and company. Texas doesn't necessarily have those guys to pick up the pieces when Roach goes down. So it's a significant suspension.
Yeah, it's the old age question of like MVP. When people argue about that, is it the most valuable, which it says in the name, or is it the best player? All that type of stuff. But Robbie, so we're seeing a number of 2 here. Would you say it comes out higher or lower than 4 Sooners, if you had to say?
I would guess it probably comes out at about 4 or 4.5, and then we'll see where the market takes it from there, because I'm sure that the early betting, as soon as the openers come out, there'll be some pouncing on the Oklahoma side within reason. So I don't know how far it can carry, Drew, but I would think it probably opens about Oklahoma minus 4, 4.5.
And with a total of 136, like Ken Pom's numbers are projecting, point guard out, highest scorer out, would you lean towards the under here?
Yeah, you'd have to. I would think that might open 132, 131.5. They'll push that down a little bit without Roach on the floor. So there's a lot of things to consider here. Like I say, he is a huge chunk of what Texas does, and it's short notice for Shaka Smart to have to devise a new game plan. This just happened this afternoon. I mean, maybe the team knew it last night, and we just found out today, so maybe today's practice compensates for it. But to have to devise a new game plan this deep into the season to go against your arch rival, to me, that's a tough situation for Texas.
Great breakdown, Robbie, on the first game. We got, let's head to the SEC for the next 2 here. 6-13, 6-14. Tennessee, LSU. It looks like we got the Volunteers 81 and the Tigers, the Baton Rouge Tigers 79. So it'd be Tennessee minus 2 on the road here, according to Ken Pom. That would give us a total of 160. How would you look to bet Tennessee LSU at that number, Robbie?
Yeah, this is going to be like I was saying to you off air, the top 4 teams in the SEC all face each other on Saturday. Auburn's going to play Kentucky as well, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But for this game, I think, LSU had been sailing right along, and then they lose in overtime Wednesday night at home to Florida, 82-77. We'll see how they bounce back from that particular loss. Now, we saw how Tennessee responded off of the thrashing they took last Saturday at the hands of Kentucky. They came back middle of the week. I'd call that win over Vanderbilt, Drew, probably best way to describe it would be lackluster. They win 58-46, no big deal. They're laying 17.5 in the game, so they don't cover. And as of their last 5 games, they're only 1-4 against the spread. So Tennessee's been a little bit overvalued as of late. We talked about them last week prior to the Kentucky game when I had said that Kentucky took over the top spot in my power ratings, and Tennessee kind of on a bit of a slide. They remain a little stagnant right now. We'll see how they react here. But the fundamentals in this game are real interesting, and I think whichever side can win that tug of war probably wins this game. I'd also give a little bit of a lean toward LSU because it's a second consecutive home game and they're off a home loss, so you want to lean a little bit toward LSU. But where fundamentals are concerned, how about these numbers? In SEC play so far this season, Tennessee's number one in the conference in field goal percentage offense. They're number one in the conference in field goal percentage defense. They own the top spot in both of those. If you take the offensive number for a minute and go to the other side of the coin and realize that LSU owns the 14th or worst field goal percentage. Now, I'm talking about 2-point shots here, not adding in the threes. This is 2-point field goal percentage. Tennessee's number one on offense. LSU's 14th, dead last in defense. Should be an advantage for Tennessee around the rim here for Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield, and company. And then on the other side, like I say, Tennessee has the best 2-point defense. LSU, the fourth best 2-point offense. So maybe Tennessee, field goal percentage-wise, can take away stuff that LSU does. LSU's not a great 3-point shooting team. They shoot them, not just a great percentage-wise. And the same for Tennessee. However, all that being said, Tennessee could get killed on the boards here. When they lost to Kentucky last Saturday, Kentucky absolutely annihilated Tennessee where rebounding was concerned. In that game, Kentucky forced Tennessee to 1-and-outs on Tennessee's offensive end 75% of the time. 3 out of every 4 trips down the floor where they got off a shot, they didn't get a second shot. Kentucky swept the boards. LSU totally capable of that. And then on the other side, when Kentucky put up a shot, 41% of the time they got the rebound and had a second chance. LSU's a great rebounding team. They're the number one offensive rebounding team in SEC play right now. When you have to deal with Naz Reid at 6'10" and Cavell Bigby Williams at 6'11", and you're Tennessee, it's going to be a handful. It could be a repeat of what happened to them against Kentucky. We'll see what adjustments are made. But again, the field goal percentage stuff really sits in Tennessee's favor. You're going to get a good point guard matchup here, right? Tremont Waters against Jordan Bone. Waters, sensational sophomore for LSU. We'll see, again, where the number comes out here. We know that both of these teams like pace, so the 160 makes sense. It's a first-time meeting between these two because it's cross-division. They haven't played so far this year, so they really don't have a good feel of what the other does best. There could be a feeling-out period in the first half. It's an interesting game here, Drew, and a big one because it has, as we get down to the end of the season here, there's ramifications for these games as far as conference tournament seeding is concerned.
And, Robbie, you said Kentucky held Tennessee to, was it 44 possessions of one shot?
Yeah, 41% of the time, Kentucky got a second shot in that game. So their offensive possessions, when they came down and put it up, they went to the glass and got a second chance. LSU more than capable of that. They're the number one offensive rebounding team in that league. So you could see LSU putting up shots here, getting rebounds, getting second chances. And then on the other end, like I say, against Kentucky, Tennessee was one and done. 75% of the time, one and done. So it's, they're a real good field goal percentage shooting team. They're going to have to shoot real good here because the rebounding situation does not favor them. LSU's two bigs are real good at cleaning the glass both ends.
Okay, so yeah, that's going to be a scenario that's with LSU's bigs. It's going to be tough on Tennessee. Robbie, we got another one here in the SEC, 619, 620, Auburn, Kentucky. Ken Palm's pegging this at Auburn 68, Kentucky 75. That would give us a 143 total, I believe. You say like kind of the best 4 teams are playing each other. I think you're kind of giving props there to Auburn. I don't know if they're you really think they're the 4th best team in the SEC?
Well, when I go by power ratings, those are the top 4. Yeah, I have them rated as Kentucky on top, Tennessee second, Auburn third, and LSU 4th on neutral floor. So I know that Bruce Pearl thinks that his team is just about to turn the corner. We watched them in their game this past week, midweek, and they put on a pretty good show to start the game. They were lights out from three, and with Austin Wiley in the middle, it gives them that, sort of rim protector, guy you can dump it down low to, that they hadn't had for the majority of the season. It looks like Wiley's about 100% now. So Pearl thinks his pieces are coming together, and when they're right, they're capable of beating anybody in the country. Here's the problem I have with this game, Drew. We saw prior to the last game that Auburn played where they won big against Arkansas, Arkansas only knows one way to play, and that's fast tempo up and down the floor. The two games before the Arkansas game, Ole Miss decided to slow the game down against Auburn. Vanderbilt decided to slow the game down against Auburn. And they gave the Tigers fits. I mean, those were games with possessions in the mid-60s. Auburn doesn't like to be slowed down at all. And from my perspective, if I'm Coach Cal, Kentucky's not a team that plays Greyhound style anyway. I have to believe he's going to try to slow this game down as well. Take away what Auburn does best, which is open floor, pull up threes, get into a press, try and create steals. For Kentucky, it would be in their best interest to take a little page out of the Ole Miss playbook and the Vanderbilt playbook and slow this game down. If you think about it, Kermit Davis and Ole Miss hadn't really shown that style all season long. That game plan was put in just for Auburn, and it frustrated Auburn. So we'll see if Kentucky does the same in this game. I think that, we just talked about how Kentucky killed Tennessee on the boards. They could destroy Auburn on the boards. However, it's a big injury in this game. Reed Travis, the Stanford grad transfer, force inside the paint. He's got an ankle injury, and if he doesn't go, that kind of limits Kentucky's rebounding ability here. P.J. Washington sort of on his own where that's concerned, so maybe that helps Auburn out. There's a lot of contrarian arguments here. That you are contradictory arguments here. You can go back and forth with both sides. But I think in the end, if Ashton Hagans and that Kentucky defense gets out on the perimeter against Auburn and they slow the game down, I don't know that Auburn can win this one, Travis or no Travis. It'll be closer for Auburn if Reed Travis can't go. But I just think that Kentucky has the weapons to play multi-style games where Auburn can only really excel in one style. And it's shown up. It's shown up in the last three games. Whether Coach Pearl thinks his team has turned the corner or not, they have shown in two of the last three games that they do not like to have the game played in the mid-60s where possessions are concerned.
That's a great read, Robbie. I didn't even think of it that way. And that's something I'm going to use in my own handicapping going forward with Auburn. They're just such a volatile team, Robbie. They'll come out one day and it's like, man, they could hang with the Dukes of the world. And then the next week, you'll see them come out, like you said, with that Ole Miss game, and it's like they were nowhere to be found. And you're right. It was they couldn't. They can't play slow, so it depends. And also you got to keep in mind, it's easier to slow the game down, especially being as talented as Kentucky is and being at home. Kentucky's going to be able to slow the game down. Auburn's not going to be able to speed it up as easily, at least in my estimation. That would make me lean towards Kentucky too, man. There's no way I would bet Auburn in this matchup. How would you bet it sidewise if you had to?
Yeah, I think I would like Kentucky. Like I say, Auburn's going to have a tough time whether Reed Travis plays or he doesn't play. Irregardless, if he doesn't play, they're still going to have a tough time because the other thing that I think will happen here, Drew, is that Kentucky's perimeter defense is so fierce. I don't think Auburn's going to get these open looks that they get against other teams when they can open up the floor because of pace. So, when you're not getting clean three-point looks, and I know they've got a lot of weapons. They can pass the ball to three or four guys that can stick it from deep. But led by Ashton Hagans, we've talked about him plenty on this show and his defensive ability. I think Kentucky will certainly be out there on these three-point shooters, making life difficult. So if you think about the game being played that way, the way you and I are describing it, it's hard to bet Auburn in this instance, and it's probably hard to play this game over. I think you'd be looking at Kentucky and a potential under here.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And that game's 1:30 on CBS, 1:30 Eastern, so an earlier game. That'll be a fun one to watch to tomorrow early afternoon. We got 7:07, 7:08 up next. And guys, before we get to it, remember the coupon code CBB100 at checkout for Rob Veno or myself, Drew Martin's rest of college basketball season for $100 off. That's just $325, and it gives it to you all the way through the Final Four national championship game. No extra charges later. Robbie was good in March Madness last year. 5-1, 83% on his top 5% plays. So you get that play tomorrow, his top play tomorrow, all of that. CBB 100 at checkout for Rob Veno or myself, Drew Martin, or both. Rest of college basketball season for just $325. CBB 100 at checkout. 7:07, 7:08. Robbie, we got Texas Tech, in the Big 12. Looks like Ken Palm showing the Red Raiders 69, the Jayhawks 63. This one in Lubbock. That would give us a 132 total. Robbie, how would you look to bet Texas Tech tomorrow?
Yeah, before I hop in real quick, Drew, let's get back to the coupon code and the weekend real quick, guys. I know Drew keeps pushing my numbers, 5-1 with the 5% plays in college basketball, but how about 20-4 over his last 24? You know what that equals to? That equals to 83% as well. So Drew on a tremendous hot streak. I know he's not one to, reach his arm around and pat his own back, so I'll do it for him. If you're looking for somebody currently in red hot form, 20-4, I don't think it gets any better. So you want to look to go ahead and purchase one of Drew's packages here this weekend. Get involved, 3-day, 7-day, whatever. But there's nobody hotter at Sportsmemo right now than Drew Martin. Let's get to this game. No problem, buddy. I know you don't want to say it, but I don't like to say it about myself either, so I know exactly how you feel. Texas Tech, Kansas here. This is a rematch of a game that was played a few weeks ago, early February. KU wins this game by 16 points, going away. However, at that time, they had LeGerald Vick in the lineup. He no longer in the lineup. That game was in Fog Allen Fieldhouse. This game's going to be played in Lubbock. And I think Texas Tech will be seeking revenge in this game. They've been as good as it gets in the Big 12 the last couple of weeks. They actually have made their way to the top of my power ratings where Big 12 teams are concerned. They sit number 1 right now, followed by Iowa State and Kansas State, all three in a power ratings tie for second place in this league, to show you how close the competition is in this particular conference. But Texas Tech probably figures to be about a 5.5-point favorite in this game. And I expect them to come out here, Drew, with 100% focus. The effort should be really good out of them. Not that it won't be out of Kansas, but Kansas has been a little bit of a different team on the road than they have been at home. And here on the road in a game where Texas Tech seeks revenge from a 16-point loss first time around, I think Texas Tech holds some edges. Also, when you take Vic out of the equation, Devon Dotson has stepped up and done a real good job at guard for Kansas to he hasn't really replaced everything that Vic brings to the table, but he's done a good job supplementing offense here. Texas Tech, known for their defense under head coach Beard. I don't expect KU to get a lot of easy stuff in this game offensively. And on the other end, Texas Tech is a team that does not mind grinding this game, playing it to the tune of a 69-60 final score. Kansas got out of Texas Tech's range the first time with really, really hot shooting. They scored 79 points in that game. 43% from three is what they shot in that game, and they crushed them defensively as well. Texas Tech only shot 34%, so I think those numbers come back to the mean here. Texas Tech shoots better. Their defense plays better, and I'm going to look to bet Texas Tech in that contest as long as the number is within that vicinity, about Texas Tech 5.5.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Texas Tech here at home. Also with Vic out, that's a big change. This time, as opposed to earlier in the season, Robbie. And guys, we got one more game here. Remember the coupon code CBB100 at checkout for Rob Veno or myself's rest of college basketball season for just $325. Robbie, heading to the ACC, Duke Syracuse. Issues is probably the wrong word, but things going on in both sides of this game. 7-11, 7-12, the rotation numbers. The Duke Blue Devils, according to Ken Palm, 77. Syracuse, 67. Remember, Syracuse was they got Duke last time out, and that was an interesting game. I believe Trey Jones went down in that game, but nonetheless, Syracuse came out with the win. That one was in Cameron Indoor. Duke, of course, if you've been hiding under a rock, Zion Williamson has been injured, likely not playing, I believe, is the last I've heard of this situation. This news is made. I don't know if you've been watching other channels. I watch CNBC sometimes in the morning, Robbie, see like stocks and finance stuff. It made CNBC as far as Nike's stock price fell when the shoe fell apart. He got injured. Thought that was interesting. Also, Syracuse head coach, not as big a news, but he was driving home and I believe hit a pedestrian that was outside of his car, and I believe he ended up dying. So not sure what's on with that situation. I don't think he made one of the practices this week, though, Robbie. Not sure if he's going to coach in the game. So a lot going on kind of both camps in this ACC matchup. This one up in Syracuse. I believe College Game Day will be at this game. I don't know if they'll be at this game. It's supposed to be at this game, but I think that there's some weather issues. 77 for Duke, 67 for Syracuse. It would give us a total of 144. Robbie, I'm pretty sure everything I said was accurate. If not, please correct me. And what's your view on Duke-Syracuse?
Well, a couple of developments there, Drew. They announced maybe about a couple hours ago now, late this afternoon, that Jim Boeheim has decided that he will coach the game. It was in question all morning, early afternoon. Then news broke that he'll coach the game. So that kind of shapes my opinion as to where Syracuse will be mentally for this game. It's really hard, Drew, and in most cases I would take a game like this and just red exit from the card and not try to guess whether or not Syracuse is going to come out like a house of fire for their head coach, who, that was an unfortunate incident the other night on both ends. Very, very unfortunate. And if he wasn't going to coach, the other end of the thing is if they come out flat, you say, well, the team is kind of sad thinking about their coach. You never know which way a team's going to react. I would say that I would place more eggs in the Syracuse is going to come out fired up basket now that the coach is going to be present on the floor. I think they'll play extremely hard. On the other side of the court, you have a team in Duke that's looking to bounce back from the North Carolina loss the other night. So you're going to get a max effort from both sides here. As we said earlier, no Zion Williamson, but the Duke Blue Devils have plenty in the tank to cover for what Williamson brings to the table. Obviously, his production can't be taken by one guy, but they have plenty of guys on that team. If you look at the first game where Syracuse wins in overtime 95-91, I'll throw some numbers at you that I don't think are going to remain the same this time out. Jack White, long-range specialist for Duke, goes 0 for 10 from three-point range in that game against Syracuse. Now, we know Syracuse's 2-3 zone. It's been talked about for 43 years that Jim Boeheim's been the coach there, and it does cause problems for three-point shooters. But 0 for 10 out of one of your specialists, I think that number will change here. R.J. Barrett, three-point shooting in that initial contest, 4 of 17. Those two guys combined, 4 for 27. That's about 14%, maybe 15%. That's not likely to happen here again in this contest. So for Syracuse, a team that allowed, 85 points in regulation and even had Duke's two of their top outside shooters go 4 of 27, something's going to give there this time around. Those guys are going to hit their shots. At least they're going to hit more than they hit in that first game. Other side, Syracuse found ways to score on Duke. I mean, they put up 85 in regulation as well, and they had really good games out of a multitude of players in that one. I think, it's hard to guess what Duke's going to be without Williamson in their lineup. And I say without him because I'm assuming he's not going to go. As we talk here, Drew, there's still some speculation maybe he can play. Even if he plays, I don't think he would be that effective. I'm going to go on the notion that he's not going to play for purposes of this podcast. But Syracuse found a way to defeat this team, and without one of their superstars, maybe they can find another way. Supercharged up at home, the Carrier Dome can be an extremely difficult place to play. We all know that. This is an interesting game. I'd be very interested to see where this game opens up, where the odds makers think this game should be placed. My opinion, Duke on the road here should be about a 6-point favorite, and that does include a power ratings drop for the loss of Zion Williamson. So I make Duke about a 6-point road favorite. We'll see exactly where the odds makers open it up. That'll be pretty much the deciding factor of whether or not I play the game. If the number doesn't suit me, I won't step in. We'll just sit back and watch and see how both these teams react tomorrow night.
Great stuff, Robbie. We'll talk some AAF here in just a second. Robbie, what for Saturday's card, are you going to have your card up tonight, or you'll have it up early tomorrow?
I will. Let me say this real quick here, Drew. I'm going to put a few plays up tonight. I'll get the major plays up tonight, and then we'll add to the card, the remainder of the card tomorrow as I investigate a few more things here. But I want to say this. For anybody, just like last week, our system is not yet set up for AAF plays. We can't input them into the system for our customers, but what I can do is put them inside my college basketball play. So if you purchase a college basketball play tomorrow, inside the analysis box, you'll get the AAF plays as well. I'm going to insert them into all of my plays over the course of the next 2 days. So basically, buy a college play, get the AAF with it. Whatever we do this weekend. Last weekend, I played 3 games. We went 2-1 with those. We're going to look to do the same again here, if not better, this weekend with the AAF. Something I've had a pretty good read on so far, and I think I've got a pretty good read on this weekend. So keep that in mind. I'll post it on Twitter as well, so people will know. You can find AAF plays inside the college basketball plays over the weekend.
Even more reason to get on Robbie's service. And guys, that Robbie said if you buy a play, he'll include it. That's also included in the longer term services. If you buy a 3-day, 7-day, or full season, like I was saying, and with that full season, the coupon code CBB100 at checkout. So that will include every college basketball he plays and his AAF for this weekend at least. So good stuff there, Robbie. That's included on the house and his, and you can get the CBB100 code for the rest of the college basketball season for mine as well. And then I'll tell you what, if you do both and email in, we'll give you $50 in wager bucks back as credit to use however you would like on sportsmemo.com. That's if you do Robbie Veno and my college basketball service for the rest of the year. CBB100 at checkout. We'll give you $100 off, and if you do both of them, email in. We'll give you $50 back in credit. But Robbie, you want to throw out anything here the last couple minutes of the pod in the AAF?
Yeah, it's an interesting week, Drew, because as we mentioned earlier, you got 2 rematches already. 3 weeks into the season, you get Arizona and Salt Lake rematching, and you get San Antonio and San Diego rematching. There has been a decided drop in these totals as we've gone through the first 3 weeks. Whether or not that holds up, we'll find out. But I think that as offensive line play gets better, offenses will score more. The games are compacted a little bit more. I think there's been less possessions in these AAF games, so a reason also why these totals have been brought down. But as I said earlier, I feel like I've got a pretty good read on what's going on here with all 8 of these teams right now. In the early part of the season, we know as the season goes on, these teams will develop, things will change. But right now, week 3, feel like they are at a certain spot where I've got a good gauge on them. So again, for all clients right now and for any new clients over the weekend, you can get these AAF selections from us through the college basketball plays. Steve Spurrier and Orlando Arizona. Those teams have been the dominant forces so far. We'll see what happens this weekend. There's a couple teams, Drew, and I've noticed that because of the cities that these teams are in, they're football-friendly cities for the most part, that home field has played an advantage. You've got two teams this weekend that are going to play their very first home game. Salt Lake will be home in Utah for the first time. Atlanta will be home in Atlanta for the first time. So I would expect pretty decent efforts out of those two teams at home in front of their home crowd.
And are they playing where the University of Utah plays?
Salt Lake is. They play at Rice-Eccles Stadium, the home of the Utah Utes, and for Atlanta, they play at Georgia State Stadium, the home of the Georgia State Panthers.
Cool, the old Turner Field, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So that will be a good weekend for AAF. Good weekend of college basketball betting as well. So a lot on the slate for this weekend. Robbie, what do you got on tap as far as you just in the house watching the games? You doing anything else?
We'll be in the office this weekend watching games and working at the same time, so it'll be a regular Saturday for myself. Pinned down here, Drew, from, well, you know how it goes, from noon tip-off East Coast till 2 in the morning when the West Coast ends, updating power ratings and watching games. So it's a good time of year as we head toward conference tournament and postseason play. Some of these conference tournaments are no more than 2 weeks from happening, so it's getting up on us real quick here.
All right, Robbie, well, thanks for the time, man. Best of luck, and we'll talk on Monday as far as AAF recap and some college basketball.
That'd be awesome.
All right, sounds good. And guys, coupon code CBB100 at checkout. Robbie Veno or myself, Drew Martin's rest of college basketball season for $100 off. Just $325 for the rest of the season. Best of luck with your bets. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll talk to you on Monday.
This is it. After years have been rolled up within an inch of my life, I'm free!
Receipts have a mind of their own. Go paperless and manage your travel expenses online with My Taxi Business. Make the smarter choice at mytaxi.com.
You deserve a current account that isn't all take. That's why at OnPost, we're doing 30 for 30. Just open an easy-to-use current account with us, launch €30, and we'll give you another €30 for free. To open a current account that gives, pop into your local post office today or search OnPost Current Account. Terms and conditions apply. Offer ends March 31st, 2019. See smartaccount.ie for details. OnPost is authorised by the Minister for Finance to provide payment services and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland in the provision of such services.